Hello everyone, welcome to another online tutorial where we'll be learning how to make this Satin Zara cap which has bow designs at the back. If you are just coming in for the first time, you are welcome. Please do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so, and don't forget to click on the bell icon which will enable you to get notified whenever we upload new tutorials. Now the materials used for today's tutorial include satin fabric, of which 1 yard will be enough, your marco, which can be gotten from those who sell carpentry materials, crinoline big size, your accessories, your gum, as well as your scissors and your matching color of thread and needle. For this tutorial, we are working on a Zara cap design. You know the Zara cap has the band which has the marco in it to give it that band look. It has the base, and then there is going to be this multi bows or multi loops design at the back with embellishment. Now I'm working with satin fabric. 1 yard will be more than enough for this project, and then I'm going to be lining the Zaria cap. Now lining is optional, it is not compulsory, but I want to, and this will also afford you the opportunity to see how it is done. Now I have my fabric here, and then the fabric for the Zaria cap itself, because it's going to be lined. I have two pieces of fabric. I have 26 inches for the length by 17 inches for the width. 26 by 17 inches cut out twice, two different pieces of fabric. This is for the Zaria cap. Thereafter I have my marco, and measurement for my marco is 3 inches for the width by 18 inches for the length. 3 inches by 18 inches for the marco. Now coming over to the design at the back, I have my fabric. This is a very long piece of fabric. It is the full length of my fabric. This may be enough or it may not be enough depending on your measurement. But if it's not enough, you can go back to your leftover fabric and then cut out whatever is needed to complete the design. Now the loops at the back, or the bow at the back, there are 6 in number, and then I just cut out the full length of my fabric. The width of this fabric, the width is 12 inches. That is from this end to this end. It is 12 inches, while the length is the full length of my fabric. But then if the full length of your fabric is between 57 and 60 inches, we are going to, after sewing, we are going to cut the fabric, like pieces it gradually into small pieces, for creating the design. What we'll be needing then is 10 inches. So 12 inches will be for the width, which is this part that I just illustrated. That is from here to here, 12 inches, while the length is going to be 10 inches. That is if your fabric is up to 60 inches or more, so that you can get your 6 pieces from it. But if it is not up to, probably it's 57 or 56 inches, you will now have to work with either 9 inches or 9.5 inches as the length, so that that full length of your fabric will be enough to get that 6 pieces. I don't know whether you get what I'm trying to illustrate. So in a nutshell, all I'm trying to say is that for the design at the back, the measurement is 12 inches for the width by 10 inches for the length, and you need it 6 times 6 different pieces of fabric. Now in addition to the fabric, we are going to be adding crinoline to it, so as to make the design stand. Now this is my crinoline, and then I'm going to be using this big size of crinoline, but then I'm going to be doubling the crinoline. I'll place 2 pieces of the crinoline inside the fabric so as to make it strong. It will stand well and the design will come out very fine. So this is the crinoline I'm using. So that is it for the materials needed. Now let's start with the Zara cap fabric. I will get both pieces of fabric and then place one on each other. I'll have the first fabric fine side facing me, And then I'll get the second fabric and place fine side on this fine side on the table. So fine side facing fine side, that is the way I'll position my fabric. Then I'll get this on my sewing machine and I'm going to stitch around the four edges to join it together so that the lining is added to the base material. So I'll stitch around it but leave a little bit of allowance at one edge, which I'll be using to turn my fabric inside out. That is it for this. Now coming to the design at the back, I have my fabric here. So I'll go ahead to fold it into 2 equal halves so that when I fold it, I'll be having 6 inches by 10 inches. So I'll just fold it and then sew it down from one end to the other end. So this is for the full length of my fabric. If you have already cut yours following the measurement 12 by 10, fold into 2, you have 6 by 10. Then you sew one after the other for each pieces to join it together. So I'm going to do all my sewing and then I'll get back for us to continue. So I have my fabric here already sewn, and along one edge I left a little bit of allowance with which I will use in turning my fabric inside out. After turning my fabric inside out, this is what I have. So I'll just fold it into 2 equal halves so as to be able to locate the middle part, and then I'll mark it at that point where I have the middle part of the fabric. Now as soon as that is done, I'll get my mark hook, fold my mark hook into 2 equal halves and then also mark the midpoint. Now that that has been done, I'll place my marker on my fabric and ensure the midpoint aligns while I bring down my fabric this way. And then I'll place it on my sewing machine and sew this down from one end down to this other end. So this is my fabric. As you can see, I'm done sewing it from one end to the other. You can now go ahead to fold it into 2 and sew it down. Okay, fold it into 2, sew it down. But there's another method. What you have to do is that you have to pull this one part down to the middle before you fold it into 2 and stitch it down. Okay, so you just adjust your fabric until you have the sewn part at the middle of your band. So at this point, you can see that this sewn part is no longer at the tip here. It has moved down to the middle, and this is it on the other side. This part is at the middle, no longer at that end. So this is how we'll place it. This is the fine side now. This part that has this sewn part is on the wrong side. So this is the fine side, this smooth part. So I'll place it down this way like this. Then I'll go ahead to fold my cap into 2 and then sew it down from this edge down to this edge. Okay, so let me take it this way. This is the fine side, so just place this on it like this and do unnecessary adjustments. Then fold your fabric into 2 equal halves, sew this down to this edge. So this is it, and then I'm done making my sewing stitch from this edge down to this very edge. So I want to now get my needle and thread and make my running stitch. My running stitch is going to come just immediately after the band, where the band ends, down to this end and down to this edge. Now if you observe, you find out that I used 26 inches for the head circumference, and that is only because I'm lining my fabric, and then I know that my sewing allowance is not always much. I can sew with ½ inch allowance, but then if you know that you'll not be able to sew with ½ inch allowance and your client's head circumference is larger than 23 inches, please use up to 27 inches. That is if only you are lining your cap. If not, you can use your 25 inches for your single fabric, and if you have a very big head circumference to work with, you can now use 26, 27 inches for it. I hope you get. Now another question I will get is, when you line the fabric, how thick it is. It is actually thick. I wanted it so. Then you can also work on yours without lining the cap. Okay. Then please, another thing to note is that if you cannot sew with half inch allowance, you also have to increase the measurement too. So things to consider: your client's head circumference, if you have access to it, and then your sewing allowance. So that at the end of the day, since this is a non-stretchy fabric, you don't end up creating something so small. So this is it. I'm done with it. I'll flip this over to the final side. And this is my Zara cap. So my plain Zara cap is ready. Now let's go ahead to work on the design. Remember, I had stated the measurement earlier, and I said we should fold into two and sew it from one end to the other. That I have done. So I'm going to turn my fabric inside out. After that, I will iron the fabric to straighten it out before passing my crinoline inside my fabric. And when I passing my crinoline, I'm going to double it and make sure it is it is twice. That is, it is two pieces rather inside the fabric. Then I will iron it again with the crinoline. So right here I have my fabric already turned inside out, and I also went ahead to iron it out. Now for this particular design, you cannot do without ironing, because ironing your fabric, especially the fabric for the design, helps to also bring out the beauty of the design. So this is it. So then I'm going to now get my pieces, my fabric, and then get my crinoline and insert in it. I've explained how to go about the measurements. Use 10 inches or use 9.5 inches depending on whatever fabrics that you have, the quantity of fabrics that you have left over, or the length of your, yes, the quantity of fabrics that you have left over. So I will do that and then get back. So when it comes to adding your crinoline inside your fabric, this is how it should be done. Okay, I will double it. It should be two pieces, and then you pass it inside your fabric this way until it comes out from where it's expected to come out from. And then you adjust the fabric. Then take the fabric with the crinoline in it back to your ironing table, and then iron it to straighten it out. So the fabric and the crinoline, you have to iron again. So at this point, I have all 6 pieces of my fabric with my crinoline inside. You can see this one part at the middle, and I've ironed it again. So now we'll move into creating the design. So this is what I'll do. I'll just get each piece of fabric, fold it into 2 equal halves, and make a running stitch at the edge of the fabric, just as you see me doing right now. And for those who will ask, I use 10 inches as the length for mine. So this is it. And then pull my thread, get the second piece of fabric, and also repeat the same thing in that order till I've added all 6 pieces of fabric together. At this point, I have all 6 pieces of fabric together, and then I'm just going to pull it tightly so that I have this. And then I will now pass my needle and thread through this first fabric that I started working with, so as to secure it. So after creating the design, this is how it looks like. I've secured my thread. This is this other side. Now I have my Zara cap here and the design. I'm going to now place this at the back of my Zara cap and then use my needle and thread to tack it down to the cap so as to join it together. At this point, I'm done attaching my design down to my Zara cap. This is the back view and then this is the front. Then we move over to embellishment. For embellishment, I have my applique here. Please, you can use any applique that you have that is available. But then this particular applique makes this design very unique and very different from the usual. So this is the front view while this is the back view. So I'm going to go ahead to apply my gum on it, and as soon as I'm done doing that, I'll place this way on the cap like this. Okay, so I'll do that and then get back. Applying gum, please allow air to pass through it a bit before you start placing your design, your applique on your fabric. Okay. Then coming over to the back, we are going to be needing 7 pieces of this design. So I have it here, and then I'll go ahead to pieces this gradually and then get the 7 pieces that is needed. So I have them here, and then I'll go ahead to apply gum on them one after the other as you see me doing. So this is the back view as soon as I'm done laying down my appliques, and this is the front view. So our Zara cap is ready to be worn. I'll place this on my dummy head to show us the final outlook. Now, in place of satin fabric, you can as well use any other fabric like your Ankara fabric, your raw silk fabric, your Duchess fabric, and so on. And this brings us to the end of this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you are yet to do so. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and on Instagram. We are there as Jenie Concept. Please like, share, and leave a comment in the comment section. Until our next tutorial. Bye.